What can I say about this guy besides his parents? I really don't know much about him. But well, I've known George for about 2 years. But I have to say, I've never met anyone more likable with a personality quite like George. I mean, the first time I introduced him to my mum and my uncle, within seconds they were calling him my boy. I mean, they don't even call me that. But anyway, let's get to the good shit. So, I believe it was a fine Sunday morning when George awoke from his slumber and had an epiphany of something. He said to himself, "I'm absolutely obsessed with Latin women." And to his parents, yes, now you know why he's going to Colombia.
Come on, Colombia! Hey! Come on, Colombia!
Vegas! Anyway, he thought to himself, but how am I going to distinguish this breed of women to the rest of the flock? And then suddenly it came to him, possibly the greatest moment of mankind. Niche. A word from that moment on that became locally known amongst all our friends. A word so perfect that it has no words to describe it. And it didn't just stop there. Next came clunge, landmines, and of course, the atomic bomb. All with surprisingly detailed meanings, but I won't get into that. Anyway, this word became so well known that it was even branching to Melbourne, Sydney, and even Colombia. So we all know now, George does have a fetish for Latin women. But you might be thinking to yourself, how does someone possibly hit on women that are Latin, that generally speak Spanish? Well, besides the fact that he's learning Spanish at the moment, he always had his faithful line that most of the time has gotten him at least a good intro. So it would basically go something like this. First, the niche radar would go off. And if there were at least a solid 4, George would go up to them and say, "Hey, where are you from?" They would say, "Oh, Colombia, whatever." And then he would ask their name and say, "Mi nombre es Jorge de la Which means, my name is George in the jungle. Now, you'd be surprised how often this works. But the amount of times I've heard this is absolutely ridiculous. But now that we all thoroughly know George's obsession and secret pick-up lines with his Latin women, I'd just like to thank George for being a really great friend over the past 2 years with me. And I know with all you guys as well. Whether he's striving at the gym doing curls, doing an all-nighter for exam, taking his clothes off in the middle of the club because Gerard did it, yelling at a cabbie because Gerard did it, and stealing a bottle of alcohol because Gerard did it. He'll always be a great friend of mine and he deserves the best. So thanks George for tonight and cheers to some great times in the future.